Hey everyone, come on in. We'll give it 1 minute for people to come in, but welcome. We have a big buzz ahead of us today, so we'll get started momentarily. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get going. Come on in and you'll catch up. But I'm going to put a link to the catalog for all of our great books that we're presenting today. On behalf of myself and Emily Day at Macmillan, welcome to the ALMA Book Buzz and all of our wonderful attendees. They're here and ready for you. We have 16, I think, to get through today and a lot of books. So find the catalog in the chat, and at the end, we're going to record everything and we're going to send you the recording and a certificate of completion and then the catalog again. So enjoy, and I'm going to pass it on to our first person. Go ahead. Over to Chris.
Thank you, Lainey, and good morning to all librarians joining us today. I am Chris Vicari of Union Square and Company. Next slide, please. Coming out soon, we have The Nobody Code, a mystery that is also about adolescence, fairy tales, friendship, and love for fans of Liz Moore's The God of the Woods. Meet Cute Magic is a cozy enemy to lovers, witchy fantasy by Morgan Elizabeth. The Rally by Carla Bass, where a young tech entrepreneur ousted from her startup escapes to Europe for a glamorous car rally. And out next week, Make It Fast, the follow-up to Caroline Chambers' New York Times bestseller, What to Cook When You Don't Feel Like Cooking, new delicious recipes made in just 30 minutes. Next slide, please. In October, Bad Like Me by Louise Griffin. When Sam, the neighborhood's hot dad, is stabbed to death in a local playground, no one can imagine who would want him dead. Except, of course, the mommy snubbed, the daddy ridiculed, the outsider he humiliated, his lover, oh, and his wife. This multi-point of view domestic thriller is told by four not at all reliable women, including a stunner, a lawyer, a realtor, and the outsider who'd do anything to fit in. Dark secrets and betrayals are hiding and unveiled in Bad Like Me. Next slide is The Bookkeeper, a twisty workplace novel of obsession by Mary McGarry Morris, whose previous books have been New York Times bestsellers. She's been most often compared to John Steinbeck and Carson McCullers. In this, her 10th book, Grace Crowley is a fastidious bookkeeper at the local mill, and after the public collapse of her marriage, she hatches a desperate plan to regain control to ensure the success of the mill's careless and undeserving owner, even after years of rigged finances and affairs are exposed. This is a psychological thriller about a good woman drawn into an obsessive downward spiral that may leave her life in pieces. Next, in February, The German Sisters, a novel set against Hitler's rise to power with two sisters, one aged 13, the other 11, the older disillusioned by Nazism, but the younger entranced by it, to the degree that she joins an indoctrination program that embraces that regime's goal of boosting the Aryan birth rate. Years later, with a child that she handed off to her sister, fleeing Hitler's regime, and years after the war, the younger sister, now armed with the hindsight to see the horrors of Nazism, must both confront how she was swept away by its false promises and face the daughter she gave away. This novel tests the strength of family bonds and limits of forgiveness. Next is The Dressmaker of Winterset, an homage, a reimagining to the Scarlet Letter that goes where Hawthorne couldn't. It's not 1642, it's 1956, and Hester's not in Boston, but raising her daughter Pearl in 1950s Iowa, defying the town gossips who shun her and evading her estranged husband, all while her bespoke dress shop designs at Winterset's Best Dress Shop become the darlings of wealthy fashionistas in not far off Des Moines. This reimagining centers on Hester's remarkable dressmaking skills and her determination to provide a good life for her daughter. It celebrates the strength of women and is perfect for readers who love small town stories with a strong sense of setting. Author Marianne Fons spent a career in the quilting industry, co-authoring best-selling how-to books, co-hosting PBS's Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting. This is her debut novel. Next, our Singularity program debuts this fall with three titles, bite-sized delights, paperback novellas that bring together a wide range of genres and cultural perspectives. Our first three are a Harlan Ellison classic, plus Adam Caesar for horror, and The Waiter by Kwan An Tan, which had one advanced blurb calling it a garden of forking paths that's easy to enter and hard to escape. Many more titles to come in the months ahead in this program. Next slide, please. Two big cookbooks coming out early in fall. Oversharing, straight out of Nashville. Courtney LaCourte, known online at Cheese Gal, shows in her debut how she makes every meal feel special and comforting recipes organized into playful chapters for every meal and moment. She has well over 1 million followers across social platforms. And Cuban Soul, you may have seen Mika Leone at Library Journal Day of Dialogue or on the Today Show or Food Network. All leads to Cuban Soul, this joyful cookbook that offers 100 family recipes highlighting Cuba's bold and complex flavors. Next slide, please. Nourish and Thrive. In 2009, Elizabeth Stein founded the company Purely Elizabeth in her kitchen and today has the leading modern wellness food brand that offers granolas rooted in intentional ingredients and real flavor. Purely Elizabeth products are in 30,000 stores nationally and she has 400,000 social media followers there. Her simple philosophy is when you eat better, you feel better. And as we all fight back against ultra processed foods, here are 100 easy to prepare recipes full of nutrient dense ingredients because taking care of yourself just doesn't have to be complicated. Next is Fiber Power by Dr. Emily Leeming. Fiber's the new protein. It's trending on social media, and I get why. Fiber prevents spikes in blood sugar, studies show, and helps us feel full longer. It protects our heart health too by soaking up bad cholesterol and removing it as waste. But studies suggest too that almost 95% of us Americans don't eat enough of it. Fiber Power is here to change that. 60 simple and satisfying recipes to make you feel your best and show how small, achievable changes in your diet can deliver transformative results. Next slide, please. The science of dinner. How many times have you been cooking at home and have someone lean over your shoulder and ask, is it done? Is it done? It can be a little annoying, but I get the concern. They will ask you no more once expert culinary school instructor and YouTube creator Helen Rennie through 60 recipes teaches you and thousands of home cooks about the building blocks of flavor, why browning matters, how to refine your skills and tell when foods are properly cooked and safe to eat. Anyone can put chicken on a pan, but knowing when to take it out for its optimum taste and texture is what makes or breaks a dish. We think of this as a new classic reference for home cooks. Author Helen Rennie is among the best known YouTube culinary creators with 600,000 plus subscribers. She now lives in beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. And lastly, in nonfiction, Bellwether. Journalist Kim Kankowitz, who has written for the Washington Post and the Atlantic, among others, offers the first narrative history of telephone operators while spotlighting how one woman's courage shifted the labor market for hundreds of thousands of women. Telephone operator named Lorena Weeks launched a revolution in 1965 when she applied for a switchman job. It led to a landmark court ruling that smashed the blue collar workforce's glass ceiling and over time created pathways to higher paying and more fulfilling careers, as well as modern efforts for gender equity. Her case is still used as a reference in court cases, and it was activism like this that paved the way for women to enter the workforce more broadly in America. Bellwether is out in February. My friends, those are the books. And that's the way it is today, right here in New York City on Tuesday, August 4th, 2026. Please say hello to our next presenter.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to let you know about some of the amazing books coming soon to you from your friends at Source Books. Next slide. My name is Emily, and I am an associate marketing manager for libraries at Source Books. Please feel free to email me with any questions you may have, but let's get on to the books. Next slide. First is my favorite book right now. Please pick it up. Please read it. I want to chat about it. The Memory of Borrowed Books is a wonderfully cozy book and a stunning ode to libraries and the community, following a librarian, Claire Ashford, who discovers a hidden room in the Fox Hollow Bay Library one night, filled with mysterious books that pull her into unfinished memories of former patrons. When one haunting memory of a bridge refuses to let her go, Claire's path crosses with Julian, a patron haunted by the same vision. As the library's future hangs in the balance, Claire must confront the very memory she spent years trying to forget. Next slide. Of course, we have Miss Frida McFadden with The Witch. After losing her job and apartment, Julia Barlow retreats to her family's ancestral estate, expecting refuge. Instead, the 17th century mansion feels alive with unease. A grandfather clock stops nightly at 3:41 a.m., lights flicker, and something cries outside her door at night. As Julia investigates, she uncovers the story of Caroline Eldridge, accused of witchcraft in 1692 and executed. When human bones surface on the grounds, Julia suspects her great aunt is hiding dangerous truths and that the past isn't as distant as it seems. Next slide, please. In How to Make a Friend, best-selling author and community builder Radha Agrawal draws on research and years of building real-world communities. She argues that meaningful connection requires intention, vulnerability, and practice. This book is part manifesto, part practical guide, and offers tools for cultivating deeper relationships, from embracing awkwardness and navigating honest conversations to repairing conflict and creating spaces where community can thrive. Next slide, please. All right, the past never dies. It just changes its tune in this edgy, speculative thriller about an aging woman who begins hearing the murders of girls she once knew and must uncover their killer. For more than 40 years, Alina has hidden from the tragedies of her New York City punk rock youth. Tragedies that left her best friend, Sin, dead and other women missing. Now, strange sounds beneath her tinnitus and viral photographs of her recently deceased musician pull her back into that world. Convinced she's hearing Sin's murder, Alina revisits her past and uncovers clues to an unspeakable crime only she can solve. Next slide, please. All right, Leia has left everything behind to become a New York City influencer, carefully curating the perfect day in a life. But when her world begins to glitch, she realizes she's trapped inside a loop of her own social media video. The only other person who knows what's happening is Noah, a brooding stranger caught in the same digital loop. Together, they must outsmart the algorithm holding them captive before they're lost forever. As reality and performance collide, Leia is forced to confront who she is beyond the filters in this witty, magical romance. All right, next slide, please. All right, Rachel Holloway has worked hard to keep her past buried, and for years, she's succeeded. Now living a quiet life with a loving boyfriend and young daughter, she has everything to lose when the newspaper she works for decides to investigate a long-forgotten case, the disappearance of Molly Forster. Some secrets are too dangerous to uncover, and she'll do anything to protect the life she's built. Because if the truth comes out, everything will shatter. Rachel isn't just connected to the case, she is Molly Forster. Next slide, please. All right, from USA Today best-selling author Holly Renee comes the first book in a sweeping romantasy trilogy of fate, ancient gods, and forbidden love. Cursed to take a human bride whose mind will shatter if she sees his face, the Drowning King has spent years waiting in isolation. Louisa never meant to be his bride. Branded moon cursed and overshadowed by her twin, she is thrust into a dangerous marriage bound by secrets and desire. As whispers of war spread and long-forgotten goddesses awaken, Lou discovers her destiny may reshape the kingdoms, and that she was chosen long before anyone realized it. Next slide, please. When They Find Me is the newest from breakout star Carter Wilson, whose last book, Tell Me What You Did, was a Library Reads pick. This one takes place in the remote town of Expanse, Colorado, where Riven has spent her life surviving in the wilderness, following her father's mission for revenge. When she arrives in Expanse hunting the man who ruined her family, her path collides with Annie's, a woman living off the grid with her daughter and hiding from a dangerous past. What begins as a search for vengeance becomes something far more dangerous. As secrets unravel, both women must confront the truth, because in Expanse, the past doesn't stay buried, and the truth can kill. Next slide, please. All right, from the USA Today bestselling author May Cobb comes the deliciously wicked standalone sequel to All the Little Houses. In the scandal-plagued town of Longview, Texas, the queen bee is gone, leaving ambitious rivals eager to claim the crown. A picture-perfect tradwife, a cunning daughter, and plenty of other suspects will do whatever it takes to come out on top. In a town fueled by gossip, power plays, and unsolved crimes, no one here is innocent, and no one is above suspicion. Because in Texas, everything's bigger, including the secrets, scandals, and consequences. Next slide, please. All right, and that is all the books I have for you today, but please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and don't forget to vote for library reads. Thank you guys so much. Passing it on to our next presenter.
Thank you, Emily. Hi, everyone. My name is Amelia Mejia, and thanks for joining us today to hear about new books from Blackstone Publishing. First up, we have Sometimes I Scare Myself by Geneva Rose. Not all nightmares come from sleep. Here are 3 horror stories: a dinner party, a quiet house, a roadside stop. You'll recognize the setup. You won't recognize what comes next. She is a #1 New York Times and USA Today bestselling author. Rose's books receive high praise from other New York Times bestselling authors, including Colleen Hoover, Lisa Jewell, and more. This was a Publisher's Weekly pick for fall 2026 fiction horror and a Cinema Chords pick of the most anticipated anthologies for the second half of the year. Blackstone also carries The Perfect Marriage, The Perfect Divorce, One of Us is Dead, You Shouldn't Have Come Here, and Home is Where the Bodies Are. Next, we have The Piano Teacher of Montparnasse by Heather Morris. In 1942, the Nazis come for 11-year-old Josephine and her family. She runs to the only person she can trust, her piano teacher, André, who is also a French resistance operative. Heather Morris is a #1 New York Times bestselling author. The Tattooist of Auschwitz, written by Hans Zimmer and Kara Talv, was adapted into a TV series in 2024. This is based on the true story of composer Kara Talv's grandmother, and the score for The Tattooist of Auschwitz is in part performed on the actual piano that inspired the story of the piano teacher of Montparnasse. Next, we have Where the Road Ends by Brian Freeman. The murder of a judge and his wife turns Jonathan Stride's world upside down and leaves him facing a shocking crossroad in this electrifying mystery from New York Times bestselling author Brian Freeman. The estate of Robert Ludlum has chosen Brian Freeman to continue the iconic Jason Bourne series. Freeman's 8th Bourne novel will be published by Putnam in January 2026. Freeman's fans have been asking for a 12th book featuring stubborn, passionate Jonathan Stride, a police lieutenant in Duluth, Minnesota, and his partner Maggie Bay. The best thriller book says an enthralling read. Where the Road Ends is a mysterious and suspenseful work of masterful storytelling that leaves no stone unturned and gives you the best horror and thriller in one. Next, we have For My Sister Nicole by Denise Brown. From Denise Brown, older sister of Nicole Brown Simpson, comes a vital, trauma-informed book that illuminates intimate partner violence and the systems that enable it. The ghostwriter, Julie McCarran, is an experienced celebrity ghostwriter with 4 New York Times bestsellers to her credit. This includes a 16-page glossy insert of photos from Denise Brown, many of which have never been shared before. Denise has spoken nationwide at universities, prisons, shelters, and legislative forums where she focuses on women's health, mental health, domestic abuse recovery programs, and media outreach. The Guardian says, shining a light on domestic violence while giving Nicole Brown Simpson her voice back. Next, we have Flyweight by Courtney Ellis. In the wake of the Great War, 2 female boxers defy society's standards to fight for their place in the ring. Tired of rejection and nostalgic for better days, Lucy enters Robin's former boxing club on a whim and discovers that a place which once barred women is now run by one. This is inspired by true events. Flyweight is the story of the strength and resilience of 2 women and the lengths they're willing to go for their families and equality. This is a powerful blend of history and heart and perfect for fans of Elise Hooper and Taylor Jenkins Reid. Next, we have King Zero by Charlie Higson. In collaboration with the Ian Fleming estate, King Zero is a brand new blockbuster James Bond novel from Charlie Higson, best-selling author of the Young Bond series. Le Chief, Dr. Number Goldfinger, James Bond has faced them all, but now the world is changing and even 007 has no idea what's coming for him. Kirkus Review says a great read for fans of detective tales with heart-pounding scenes that will keep readers turning the pages. Next, we have The Fuck Them Theory by Kelty Knight. From three-time Emmy Award-winning personality and New York Times bestselling author Kelty Knight comes The Fuck Them Theory, a self-help book for anyone who's done being the bigger person. Knight is a national media personality as the Emmy Award-winning host of E! News, co-host of the hit podcast The Lady Gang, and bestselling author with more than 60,000 books sold and multiple bestseller list appearances. She is inspiring millions of young women who are already accepting the theory movement as a form of female empowerment. Her previous book tours filled 2,000-seat theaters, and People magazine says Kelty Knight isn't holding back in her latest book, and she doesn't want you to either. Merging personal stories about breakdowns, feuds, and family secrets, the e-host provides a roadmap for readers looking to regain control of their lives. Then, just a little reminder to please submit any Library Reads votes for any of our titles that you enjoy. And finally, there is our contact information, so please reach out for galleys or if you have any questions. And passing it along. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Margot, and I'm with Macmillan. On the screen are all the ways you can get in touch with us online. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about any of the books I'm talking about today. Next slide. Many of the titles I'm talking about today already are or will be available to read on Edelweiss. So if you're not already whitelisted for automatic downloads, send us an email at the email address on the screen, and we will get you all set up. Next slide. And please feel free to join us on Mondays at 4 p.m. for our Happy Half Hour series, where we talk about all of the upcoming books we're excited about. Next slide. And be sure to check out our big book club resource guide, where you can stay up to date with book club news, sweepstakes, discussion guides, and more. And now on to the books. So first up is Home for the Homicides by Elle Cosimano and Hannah Morrissey. In a town so quaint and charming that it could be the backdrop of a Hallmark movie, crime is never in season. So when a tourist is murdered in the middle of town square, no one is more ill-prepared than the local law enforcement. With the annual holiday festival fast approaching, the desperate mayor calls for assistance, and detectives Holly Frost and Mark Shepard arrive. Holly and Mark are both on thin ice after screwing up on the job, and so this is their shot at redemption if they can put aside their bitter rivalry and the ill-advised fling they shared over a year ago. With just 12 days until the festival, the countdown to catch a killer without killing each other is on. This will appeal to mystery fans, rom-com readers, and cozier holiday book fans. It's also the start of a new series. Next up is The Tarot Trials by Katie Robert. From the author of the Dark Olympus series, this is a fast-paced epic fantasy of tarot magic and deadly competition with a slow burn tension-filled romance. Kestrel has trained her whole life to compete in the tarot trials, a competition her mother once won before being executed for treason. Now, Kestrel must take up her mother's mantle as champion of the moon and face her fate. If she can master her new powers of shadow and illusion while navigating a poisonous game of alliances and lies, she might be able to corner the fellow champion who killed her mother and uncover the truth without losing her head or her heart. But in the trials, betrayal is inevitable, and winning is less about what you have to do to win and more about what she needs to survive. This will be also start to a new series. Be good for fans of Carissa Broadbent and B.E. Schwab. Next slide is Sleuthhound by Lindsay Fitzharris. Throughout 19th century Edinburgh, surgeon Joseph Bell was known for his extraordinary talent for detection and diagnosis. To the amazement of the onlookers at the Royal Infirmary, he could read a patient's ailments, occupation, and personal habits from a single glance. These powers had a profound influence on medical student and budding writer Arthur Conan Doyle, and soon enough, Bell's methods helped spark the creation of fiction's most iconic detective. So Sleuthhound brings Victorian crime scenes to vivid life, blending historical research with the tension of a thriller, and fans of historical true crime, narrative nonfiction, and suspenseful storytelling will be captivated by Fitzharris's cinematic approach to real history. Next slide is The Dragon King by Terry J. Benton Walker. This is the forbidden royal romance of Red, White, and Royal Blue meets the dragon riding adventure of Fourth Wing. Having abandoned their kingdoms, two princes end up stranded in a dangerous and bewitching wood, and out of desperation, they agree to help each other, and then they'll go their separate ways. But when an old myth is awakened, the princes are suddenly at the heart of a crisis much bigger than imagined. There are kings behaving badly, dragons coming to collect, and witches taking revenge, and a party boy prince on the run. Next up is Possession Island by Sarah McCarry. This is a queer gothic thriller with an eerie Pacific Northwest setting, perfect for fans of Interview with the Vampire and Plain Bad Heroines. Growing up on Possession Island, the remote setting of her mother's famous vampire novel wasn't easy for Angela. When she returns from college and her estranged best friend is murdered, she finds herself in the crosshairs of a bungled police investigation. Sally has longed to leave the island for years, but she's trapped by her father's declining health and her devotion to her twin brother. The last thing that she needs is her high school nemesis, Angela, back in town. Yet she's also devastated by Moe's death, so they have to forge an unlikely alliance to find the killer. And as they delve into the island's sinister underbelly, they must decide how far they'll go to protect those they love. Next up is Lena and June by Genevieve Wheeler. Friends Lena and June couldn't be more different. June has her future planned to a T, and Lena takes life day by day. But after a messy night throws them together, it seems like nothing can tear them apart until June's health takes a turn for the worse, and Lena jets off to Paris, leaving her friend behind. As their once intertwined lives veer off on separate paths, the two must figure out how to repair the severed bond or risk running out of time. This book packs a strong emotional punch. It's nostalgic and it's bittersweet. It's perfect for anyone who wishes that there were more books where a complicated female friendship was the main love story. Next up. It's Ashes of Austen by Zoe Blake. This one has a fascinating setup. It's set in a modern day London high society that's entirely run by the real life descendants of Jane Austen's most notorious families. It's going to be a four-book dark romance series with each book inspired by one of Jane Austen's biggest works. So Ashes of Austen is inspired by Northanger Abbey. It follows a woman who is driven into a marriage to the heir of Northanger Abbey, while whispers of a curse that he is destined to kill his wife grow, as his obsession with her does as well. It's steamy, it's addictive, and it's an original spin on classic lore. Next up is Two Lives by Alexis Shaken. This is a sweeping dual timeline story from the best-selling author of Saint X. This is a beautiful, complex, multi-generational story about two children sent to the English countryside to escape World War II. Decades later, one of them is living quietly in Florida when she reads a book by a prominent British author and realizes that it's her own haunting secret past. So the story goes on a sweeping journey from pre-war Vienna to modern London literary world to find the writer and uncover the truth. This will have a huge crossover appeal for historical fiction lovers and mystery fans who also want deep emotional resonance. Next up is The Driver's Seat by Abigail Abbas. This is a debut that I like to call Gothic escapism. We follow Emma, who flees her narcissistic husband with her baby to take a job as a live-in driver at a remote castle in the Scottish Highlands. But her safe haven quickly turns into a nightmare, featuring an unstable boss, threatening notes, and a suspicious fire. It takes the messy new motherhood energy of Margot's Got Money Troubles and gives it a darkly funny women's fiction mystery matchup. And last up, we have the Black Cat's Bookshelf by Piergiorgio Polixi. This is an Italian translated novel full of cats, amateur sleuthing, and bookish connections. Think Cozy Murder, a bit of Thursday Murder Club, and Only Murders in the Building. As a grumpy bookseller and his crime book club become the unlikeliest of consultants on a local murder case. It's a book that draws inspiration from classic mystery fiction, offering a heartfelt tribute to the genre. And that is it for me. Please reach out if you have any questions, and I hope you've enjoyed the books.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I have a few fall titles that I haven't presented before, and then I have some very exciting winter titles to tell you about. Next slide. So the library reads votes for October titles are due by September 1st. I loved both of these novels by returning favorites Lydia Millett and Bonnie Jo Campbell. Digital ARCs are available to request on Edelweiss and NetGalley. Next slide. We just announced this title recently. One of Michael Lewis's favorite things to do is to dig into people's stories to find out why they do what they do and how they do it. His new book, Blockers, is an inside look at the early days of Trump's Department of Government efficiency, as told by the public servants it targeted. Blockers is the story of people who believed they had a calling, who were convinced they were doing something the country couldn't do without, and then discovered they were no longer wanted. Next slide. Cloud Runner is a new book of poetry by the three-time U.S. Poet Laureate Joy Harjo. This collection is about grief, loss, and how art can help us handle suffering. Despite a devastating loss, Harjo constructs a shrine to human resilience, reminding us that the most profound revelations can appear in our darkest hours. Cloud Runner is a testament to poetry's power to speak what is unspeakable, to touch what the mind cannot carry. Next slide. Real wealth. When Tyler Gardner first became a financial advisor, he hoped to combine his experience as an English teacher with his nerdy obsession with personal finance to help clients become confident in managing their own money. He soon realized that the industry cared more about commissions than education. Fed up, he began posting informational videos of honest financial education to help his now 6+ million followers build real wealth. In this book, Tyler helps you define your priorities, understand your portfolio, minimize your risk in volatile markets, and set you on a path to create and navigate greater wealth. Essential, practical, and readable, Real Wealth shows you how to make money work for you. Next slide. And now I have 3 favorite authors on our winter list. Amy Stewart's new nonfiction title, State Bird, tells the stories behind the sometimes controversial selections of state birds. The tradition started as a form of conservation awareness, but along the way, bird primaries went off the rails. Legislators treated debates like comic relief, and adults realized too late that children sometimes voted for the wrong bird. In this lighthearted history and travelogue, Stewart takes us to states that made brilliant and sometimes baffling choices, from Minnesota's beloved loon to Hawaii's imperiled nene to Delaware's mythical blue hen, and asks if it's time for a do-over. Beautifully illustrated with Stewart's own portraits, State Bird makes a passionate case for why state birds matter in the 21st century. Next slide. Andre Dubus III is the beloved author of House of Sand and Fog, and if you ever get the chance to go to one of his signings, you should. For a person who writes some quite grim stories, he is such a lovely human. His new collection, Our Possible Life, has 6 interlinked stories with characters who are trying to live up to what they believe their lives should be. With consummate grace, Our Possible Life delves into the myriad challenges of loving and aging, of emotional debt and obligation, of trespass and healing, generosity in a fallen world still rich with opportunities to care. Next slide. So I know a lot of you will be excited about this one, and I am too. Did anyone else watch the James Cameron movie Titanic way too many times? Well, our favorite mortician, Caitlin Doughty, is finally back with a new book, Dead in the Water, which presents Titanic like never before, through the stories of those who died and what happened to the bodies. She foregrounds the haunting stories of lesser-known victims, profiles the telegraph cable repairmen turned seafaring undertakers who pulled the floating bodies from the wreck site in the North Atlantic, and explores how a salvage company came to control the human artifacts carried and worn by the dead passengers and crew. She also shares the surprising science of death at sea and how the Titanic tragedy led to mass casualty protocols still used today. Next slide. And then for something completely different, I'm going to get a copy of this for myself because I bought a condo a few years ago and I'm still learning things. Casey Finn started a website and social media channels called DIY Playbook, where she shares home care basics that you might never have thought of. In her new book, Your Home Playbook, she presents a month-by-month system that keeps everything on track with clear tutorials and smart project planning guidance to help you stay organized and proactive. Designed for readers at every skill level, this book helps you feel capable, stay organized, and take control of your home. And next slide. So here are just a few more highlights from our fall 2026 catalog. And on the next slide, there is a look at more of our winter titles. We've got a Gothic novel called Dovecomb with that fantastic skull in a tree cover. We're publishing Noah Hawley with a nonfiction book on creativity and business called Practical Genius. All the Bluey fans out there are going to want The Bluey Years by Catherine Van Arendonk, and so many more interesting books to come. The winter catalog was just recently released on Edelweiss, and we are adding digital ARCs as soon as they become available. Next slide. So here's my contact information again. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of the week.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. I'm Katie Vaughn. I'm the marketing manager at Bloomsbury, and I will drop our Google Form link in the chat so you can request review copies of the following books. But for now, we will jump right into the first slide. So coming up in late September, we have Brought to You by How Corporations Warped the Truth, Conned the Public, and Broke Democracy by Amy Westervelt. Amy is an investigative reporter and host of the podcast Drilled, and this new book shows how the tentacles of corporate propaganda infiltrated our media ecosystem, undermined democracy, promoted science denial, and now threaten the very nature of truth itself. Bill McKibben says, "Thank heaven for this book. Westervelt makes clear not only what's gone wrong, but how we might start to fix it." And then on the same day, but a very different note, we'll have Christmas in Austin Land. This third book in the Utterly Delightful series, which was made into a movie starring Carrie Russell, gives readers the chance to relish all the fun of a Regency romance from the comfort of their modern lives. Bestselling author Shannon Hale tells the story of a woman at a Jane Austen-inspired resort at Christmas time, finding out if her one true love is really meant to be. And later in September, we'll have Wither, a Modern Gothic by Dan Warner. For fans of Jeff Vandermeer and Paul Tremblay, this is a propulsive, darkly funny literary sci-fi about technology, privacy, and humanity in transition. Set in rural Missouri, this is a cinematic literary horror with heart, delving into the rise of AI and tech takeover, but also confronting guilt over a tragic mistake and the loss of meaningful relationships. And then in early October, we'll have The Two Saddest Kitchens by New Yorker cartoonist duo Roz Chast and Jason Adam Katzenstein. This hilarious comics conversation pulls back the curtain on the author's all too relatable kitchen realities and cooking anxieties, with Ruth Reichel saying, "I don't think I've ever laughed so hard. Everyone not named Martha Stewart will recognize themselves in this book." And then on the next slide, coming up later in October, is a debut I'm so excited for, Moth's Blood by Lindy Zhang. This dark academia fantasy novel follows an ambitious alchemist, Larkspur Lee, as she aspires to greatness at a secret Parisian university. Her carefully laid plans are thrown into chaos when the school's immortal headmistress is murdered, seemingly by a cult that Lark has crossed an ocean to escape. She reluctantly teams up with a mysterious knight named Violaine to investigate, but nothing and no one at Université Merdrak is exactly what they seem, and Lark has secrets of her own that she's desperate to keep buried. As the university's dark history comes to light, old enemies loom and alliances shift, our complicated heroine must ask herself, is the power she desires truly worth the terrible price? Chloe Gong calls it sinister, sexy, and in utter command over its own allure, and this is the perfect fall read for fans of Leigh Bardugo and Olivia Blake. Then on the next slide, also in October, we have The Bishop of Durham Attempts to Surrender the City by the beloved author of Piranesi, The Wood at Midwinter, and so much more, Susanna Clarke. This is an enchanting, beautifully illustrated short story set in the world of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, following Ranulph, the Bishop of Durham, who is a consummate politician, who understands the survival of the Northern English people depends on his finding a way to unite the two races, human and fairy. Publishers Weekly says this winding medieval fairy tale showcases the author's trademark flair for the whimsical and uncanny. In lovely lilting prose, Clarke renders a fascinating cast of humans and fairies alike. Sodden's striking illustrations add to the charm, evoking a medieval illuminated manuscript. And then on the next slide, in November, we have another new book from a beloved Bloomsbury author, Oh Now by Niall Williams. Set in the small Irish town of Faha, which you might know from Niall's novels Time of the Child and This Is Happiness, this is a new story following Bat as he and the town grapple with the loss of his beloved best friend, Ganga. It's a tender exploration of life's many meanings and features an all-new essay from Niall exploring Faha's creation and legacy. And then on the next slide, in December, we have Wild Aster by Anna Hoagland, a moving historical novel set in the early 20th century. Mae Smith starts her life as a stolen good. Her biological mother, Ida, kidnaps her from her adoptive parents, and Mae grows up on the run, constantly changing towns and names, never able to find a home. After her mother's death, May is determined to live a different kind of life. But over the next half century, as she reinvents herself against the backdrop of the Depression and Second World War and pursues stability amid the personal upheavals of marriage and motherhood, she must reckon with the choices she's made in life's inexorable turns. And then the next slide, we have Bright Monday, an absolutely stunning new novel from acclaimed author David Levitt. This is a melancholy, beautiful reflection on a verdant gay love affair from 80s New York that's unexpectedly rekindled decades later in 2022 Milan. Best-selling author Lauren Groff calls it a gorgeous and sexy evocation of lost love, youthful longing, and the way time folds and expands many times during a life. Think Past Lives meets Call Me by Your Name. And then on the next slide, we have A Case of Fear and Favor, the third novel in the beloved Trials of Gabriel Ward series by Sally Smith. And this time it's personal. A librarian's dead body lays in a pool of lamplight on his desk. A priceless medieval document has been stolen from the Inner Temple, and this time the usually reluctant sleuth Gabriel Ward KC couldn't be more eager to investigate, because the second life hangs in the balance. As London prepares for the coronation of Edward VII under the eyes of millions across the empire, can Gabriel and Constable Wright find the real killer in time to prevent a terrible miscarriage of justice? And then finally, on the next slide, we have all of these fantastic titles on deck as well. The Land of Tears and Hope, The Ukrainian Story, is an epic popular history of Ukraine from frontline war reporter and author of I Will Show You How It Was, Ilya Ponomarenko. Pasta Tricolore is full of dreamy red, white, and green pasta recipes, from pesto bronzese to brown butter and sage to amatriciana and beyond. 30, A Guide to Embracing the Wonderfully Messy Decade by Ariella Elovich is a hilarious and fully illustrated guide to your 30s, celebrating the flailing, failing, and figuring out. Say It Like You Mean It by psychology professor Judy Eaton is a groundbreaking tour of the history and science of apologies and how they might just save us. And finally, The Book of Lost Languages by Daniel Harbour is a riveting, puzzle-packed journey full of pathos and humor through the decoding of ancient languages, unlocking the secrets of history and the workings of the human mind. And on the very last slide, that is it for us. Thank you so much for listening, and do feel free to reach out to me via email with any questions. Thanks, guys.
Hi all. I'm Catherine with Hachette Book Group. Thank you for being here, and let's jump right in. Next slide, please. It seems like people can't get enough of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and we have a very fun read-alike series for you. A Gentle Apocalypse features the delightfully put-upon Galornis Prime, one of the biggest, baddest demon overlord around, and he now wants to retire and tend to his farm in the adorable little hamlet of Lower Middleton. Unfortunately for him, lots of nefarious characters don't care that he's now only interested in growing pickles. This fantasy series is a definite page-turner, full of humor, empathy, and themes of community care that make it surprisingly heartwarming. Next slide, please. Now on to our fall and winter titles. Next slide. A Glacier's Guide to Dying. Robbie has spent most of his life wondering about his real father, who left due to his struggles with visions and mistrust of the modern world. And now he's determined to find him in the last place he was seen, on the slopes of a huge glacier named Omega. Robbie navigates between fear and wonder as he starts hearing the ancient voice of the glacier giving him guidance. Michelle Porter returns with her moving sensibility and disarmingly funny voice to a powerful story of identity and belonging. Next slide. Everything happens so much. Esme Good thinks she is a nobody, working a dull job. Her only escape is a tiny potion that allows her to disappear for 15 minutes at a time into alternative versions of herself. Then an incident at work flips the script. Now a lot of things are about to happen to her. In fact, everything and so much. It's a great choice for fans of book club novels such as The Midnight Library and multiverse stories like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Next slide, please. Record Lows is a crime novel and family drama set in blizzard-stricken 1970s Buffalo. At its core, it features a family, a dad and the local newspaper he champions, a mom containing multitudes, a storm-chasing uncle, and children with their own secretive lives. And then there's also the local mob, tension, and murder. This novel has loads to discuss and will transport you into a grand, character-driven mystery. Next slide, please. The Hudson Bay in Borea, Manitoba, isn't freezing when it should, and a horde of migrating polar bears are left stranded in a small town full of ignorant business owners who are more focused on milking the wallets of overeager tourists than safety. But the polar bears are growing hungry, ravenous, actually. Author Mark Freeman's direct wildlife experience working with bears brings a unique and honest perspective to this eco thriller that's perfect for climate-conscious readers. Next slide, please. From the best-selling author of The Just Said Air, Merciful Carnage is a new soulmates to enemies dark fantasy duology. Tala, a deathless girl, determined to seek refuge for her people, draws the scrutiny of an immortal ruler, one determined to uncover the truth of her existence and her hold on his attention. Next slide. Set in a near-future America, L3K follows Ella Powell, a human relocation specialist for the United States, who is tasked with shutting down a series of oil rigs that have been retrofitted as an ecological habitat for endangered marine life. What she doesn't expect is to be torn between her duty and morality. Both urgent and deeply humane, it is a moving story of community defiance and hope. Next slide, please. Nonfiction powerhouse writer Leslie Jamison brings her talents to this epic story of three women connected by the haunting power of an ancient myth that sweeps across centuries. It's a spellbinding exploration of desire, devotion, and the complexities of our deepest human bonds. This will appeal to readers of Circe and the Girls. Next slide, please. From the author of The Quiet Librarian comes a story about a father and daughter that find themselves on opposite sides of a murder investigation within the Hmong community of Minneapolis. Alan Eskins has written a high-concept, standalone mystery drawn together by themes of love, family, old ghosts, and buried secrets. Next slide. Now on to some of our nonfiction selections. Next slide, please. In today's tech-driven world, we're feeling lonelier than ever, and no one is experiencing this more than teens. Therapist and community educator Jake Ernst calls this phenomenon the connection crash, and he shows readers how to navigate stress responses, manage your thoughts and emotions, and help build a reliable sense of self and relational safety with ourselves and others. Next slide. Siblinghood is a compassionate guide to understanding, navigating, and healing our complex relationships with our adult siblings. Whether we're close, estranged, or somewhere in between, with warmth and realness, siblinghood gives readers the tools to reflect on their childhood, the patterns they inherit, and much more. Next slide. The Good Indian, a title that nods at the colonizers' ever-present gaze, as well as author Lane Yellowhorse's earnest desire to live up to her tribe's expectations for her generation, is about coming into your own, figuring out how to fight for your people, and to live in community with your ghosts and your loved ones. It's perfect for readers of Whiskey Tender by Deborah Jackson Toffa and The Water Remembers by Amy Bowers Cordalis. Next slide. Thank you. That's it from Hachette Book Group, and please do email us if you have any questions, and on to the next presenter.
Hi, I'm Deb Seeger from Grove Atlantic. I'm the publicity director here. Welcome, and thanks for joining us. Next slide. Here are just a few books that we recently published, and we are very excited that Douglas Stewart's John of John, which was a Library Reads pick, thank you all, has just made the Booker long list. So fingers crossed for September. Next slide. You may be familiar with Tim Rybeck's articles that have appeared in The Atlantic. In fact, the article that his new book, 53 Days, is based attracted millions of readers and was one of the magazine's most read articles. Though there have been many books about Hitler, no one has taken a deep dive into the first 53 days in office. In 8 short weeks, Hitler banned or neutered the press, purged the civil service, installed party loyalists, suspended civil liberties, compromised the courts, slapped tariffs on trading partners, co-opted, imprisoned, or drove political opponents into exile, assumed control of the central bank, and then compelled the country's legislative body to pass an enabling act granting Hitler a dictatorial power. Seems a little familiar. Next slide. You probably heard me or one of my colleagues raving about Solace House for a while now. Now, coming in October, 5 college students on a summer break sign up to clean out a neglected Victorian mansion that the university wants to purchase. As the students begin to sort through piles of old newspapers, dusty antiques, they become enthralled by the eerie journals of the house's former owner. Solace House is a slow burn Gothic horror infused with dark academia. The novel will sit nicely on the shelves of puzzle box novels like Paracelsus or referencing classic literary horror of writer Shirley Jackson. Just a reminder, your library reads votes are due September 1st. Next slide. Tom Dury is one of my favorite house authors. Tom has created his own fictional region set in Grouse County, Iowa, flyover country, which he began writing almost 40 years ago with his debut End of Vandalism, which has gone on to become a cult classic. His work reminds me of another favorite Grove author, Leif Enger. Both write beautifully of the Midwest, and they share a kind of realistic utopian vision of the decent ways people might treat one another. West of Loveland starts with the shocking discovery of a gun left on the side of the road and sets off a chain of events that will assemble the citizens of Grouse County. There are familiar characters from Dury's previous novels, along with a vibrant new cast. This is an old-fashioned novel. Readers of Richard Russo's work, or maybe even Patrick Ryan's Buckeye, are sure to enjoy this one. Next slide. Oh, so out of order. Sorry, in January, we are asked on the census at the doctor's office by schools and employers and even social platforms to mark our own sex and race, with the tacit understanding that in doing so, we are contributing somehow to the greater good. But as acclaimed journalist and MIT professor Angela Saini shows in Other Race, Sex, and Hidden Harms of Human Categories, a gripping assessment of data and identity, that we are actually sleepwalking into a minefield. Next slide. And back to September, from Roxane Gay Books, Desperate Bodies. This marks the arrival of a stunning talent with a voice that vibrates on the page. Lydia Mathis's story collection explores the bodies of Black women and girls in both everyday and fantastical circumstances. Her sharply drawn, authentic characters shine a light on what we're willing to do to ourselves and to others in service of desire. For readers of Desha Holloway, who you can see gave us a wonderful blurb, Kelly Link, and our own Daniel Montez. Next slide. Grove Atlantic's Atlantic Crime imprint turned 1 year old this spring, and our list is stronger than ever. Henry Wise's Holy City won the Edgar Award for first novel in his and now in his sequel, he returns to rural Virginia in Promised Land. PW Starred Review raved, Wise vivid ovation of southern landscape and nuanced cast of flawed, fully realized characters imbue his sophomore novel with a brooding suspense and emotional depth, solidifying him as a formal voice in literary crime fiction. This is for readers, which is hard not to compare to S.A. Crosby and Ace Atkinson. And Tom Ryan, I hope you remember his Treasure Hunters Club, which was a USA Today bestseller, was a finalist for the Lillian Jackson Braun Award given by the Edgars. He returns to Maple Bay in a charming follow-up sequel, Return to Breakneck Island. Next slide. From award-winning and best-selling author Michael Robenthal, known for his Philomena McCarthy series, comes his first novel ever set in Australia. Tell Me Something True is a mystery, a coming-of-age tale, and a love story wrapped into one. Small towns are quick to anger and slow to forgive. Arlo Hackett doesn't expect mercy when he emerges from a 12-year prison sentence and makes his way home. The last time Arlo was home, his brother Luke was charged with a terrible crime, and Arlo was found guilty by association. His return cracks open a time capsule full of hatred and violence, along with memories of the people he loved, the ones he couldn't save. This is readers for Chris Woodtaker and Liz Moore. And a few years ago, we have been publishing Walter Mosley's literary fiction. Now he comes to Atlantic Crime with a new mystery novel and a protagonist, Xavier Rule, Eek to his friends. He's a thief and a killer who has changed his ways under Father Frank's strange ministries until he is asked to solve a crime. You know, they say crooks make the best detectives. This is going to be a new series from Walter. Next slide. Well, that's it for now. All of our books can be found on NetGalley and Edelweiss, and you can reach out to me if you would like physical galleys, and you can see my contact info, and you can sign up for our library newsletter here. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am Lynette Kim. I'm here for Chronicle Books. I'm happy to be with you all this morning. Let's jump in with our latest upcoming titles, starting with some books pubbing soon that I don't want you to miss. Book Boyfriends is a fabulous book of the profiles of 30 book boyfriends who have ruined real men for us forever. Don't miss the centerfold. Goth Atlas. This has been a sleeper hit for us. For those looking for a travel theme for their next holiday, why not look to ancient mythology, Victorian mourning traditions, Gothic literature, and classic horror movies. All organized by continent, this book has 500 gloriously goth destinations, including the fan favorite, the Mouth of Hell, located in Portugal. Fundamentals of Flavor, molecular biologist Nick Sharma is back. He builds on the science forward thinking of the flavor equation and the accessibility of his award-winning cookbook, Veg Table. Now he explores the 4 elements of nature and their profound influence on how we cook. Next slide. It has been 25 years since we published our Emily the Strange book, and there's no better time to revisit her fearless aesthetic and signature snark. Don't miss the secret messages and art hidden in the spot gloss on the signature black, white, and red pages. Art of Jewish Joy. So this celebrity how-to guide walks you through the Jewish year from Rosh Hashanah to Passover with activities and reflections on each holiday's meaning. I promised in a previous buzz that I would get back to you all on this one. You can remove the bonus sticker sheets from the envelope in the back of the book. Feel free to use in collage clubs or youth craft programs, reading trackers, personalized bookmark, or greeting card activities, etc. Hello Museum. Here's a fresh take on museums. It takes you to, but also goes beyond the world's most famous art institutions. You'll see public history sites, immersive installations, even quirky road trip attractions. The name of the game is engaging with culture where you are with these creative ideas for making the most of your museum visit. Next slide. Okay, in January 2024, ALMA posted a run-of-the-mill check-in question on social media. How is everybody doing? Simple question, but the responses poured in. Clearly, he had struck a chord, and he was soon engaging with the responses that ranged from the heartbreaking to heartwarming. So the Book of Wisdom is inspired by the warmth, humor, and honesty of those responses that came in from around the world. We didn't get permission in time to show the interiors of the book here, but when you see it, you'll see that each practical gem is accompanied by strangely comforting photographic art of Elmo and his beloved pals from the street. As the title says, the book is just a way to check in with Sesame Street fans young and old, and a reminder that sometimes one question is all it takes to gently nudge us to take care of ourselves. Next slide. Cozy hobbies. So this one just got a start review. Booklist says for anyone who wishes they had a hobby but have no idea where to start, this inviting guide is like a sampler platter of creative pastimes, offering readers a chance to see what sparks their interest. In our chronicle, we call this book a magic 8 ball in book form for discovering which hobby is right for you in any given moment. Booklist particularly like the section on junk journaling, calling it a standout chapter. It's the 60th anniversary of the beloved animated special It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Celebrate with sing-along of 30 officially licensed original songs set to familiar Christmas carol tunes. Next slide. Flamingo State Pleasure Principles. Sorry, next slide. We can skip this. Next slide. Next slide. There we go. Thank you. I know this is pubbing very soon. Just wanted to bring it back up because I finally saw the physical book. So for the uninitiated, Flamingo Estate is an aspirational brand that invites people to reconnect with the natural world through food, fragrance, and ritual. Next slide. This book is equal parts field guide, art book, love letter, and handbook. It shares stories, recipes, and wisdom for every month of the year. Next slide. The best way I can describe it is like flipping through a beautifully designed magazine with how-tos, histories, rituals, and fashion and cultural references, along with beautiful photos and vintage art. Next slide. So I think of it as if Kinfolk magazine created a chunky annual volume, but the author and brand founder, Richard Christensen, distills it to a return to rolling up our sleeves and getting back to the earth. He says, my hope is that this book will give you a few tools, a few recipes, a few experiments, and maybe a few jolts of beauty to help you start your own dirty work wherever you are. Next slide. Sorry, next slide. Booklist and Library Reads partnered for another Read and Rave session at ALA, where a panel of librarians shouted out some of their favorite recs. Chronicle doesn't necessarily have a lot of Library Reads contenders, but we did get 2 shout outs that I will leave you with. Jinx De La How, The Queens Make Christmas. RuPaul's Drag Race superstars Jinx Monsoon and Ben De La Creme are here with their own holiday celebration told in verse as the 2 queens find themselves mysteriously trapped in a book. Guys, this is not for kids. Don't plan on using these in your drag story times. You'll be tempted because the art is so cute, but don't do it. And Cancel Your Plans. I will close with this poem from Cancel Your Plans by Francesco Marciuliano. It is titled, I'm Right Here. How can she call you a loner just because you don't want to go out when she can clearly see me right here with you on her FaceTime screen? Cheryl's a jerk. We've got s'mores, Cheryl. The end. Next slide. That is it for me. Thank you for listening. You can contact me with any requests or questions, and I'm going to pass it on to, I believe, Soho Press.
Hey everyone, that was great. I love ending with a poem. Very nice. I'm Rudy from Soho Press. Let's get into it. Next slide, please. Okay, yes. First up, from our Soho Press and Print, this is the adult literary fiction debut from author Kelly Murashige. It's Milkiverse. So this is the story of a 27-year-old woman named Bev Kitagawa. She leads this quiet, sort of lonely life, sifting through her past, not working on this novel that she's been trying to finish for years, and working at a cereal bar is a real thing. Cereal is like a place that you just go and order a bowl of cereal. It's called Cows, which I love. So one day, she's at work. This dreamy guy wanders into Cows. He obviously orders the most perfect, interesting bowl of cereal. He eats it. He leaves his bowl behind on the table. Bev goes to clean it up, and she's overtaken by this intense impulse to drink the milk that he's left behind. And as soon as she does, because she does, she finds herself just snapped into this world where she and this guy are together. She's feeling what it's like to be in this kind of affectionate relationship with him. She's talking to him. He's talking to her like they've known each other for years. And then just as suddenly, she's back at Cows. So what she's discovered is that by taking a sip of a person's leftover cereal milk, she can travel for just a moment into this reality where her story and their story are intimately intertwined. She sees herself surrounded by these new friends and in these new situations, and it sort of reveals to her that there are these whole ways of being and whole realities that she is just not a part of and won't ever really get to be a part of, but also that there's value and perspective and meaning in her own reality as well. So this is, it's weird. But it's also a gentle, funny, sometimes melancholy, but ultimately, I think, affirming book. Think of this one for readers of Sayaka Murata, Gabrielle Zevin, Andrea Lawler, anyone who's familiar with the healing fiction genre. This would be a great title for them. That's Milkiverse by Kelly Murashige. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, very different. Bone Black by Martin Smith, or Martin Swift, rather. So this is from our Soho Crime list. This is a big series debut for us. Martin is writing under a pen name. His editor is not sharing with us who he is. So let that maybe add to the intrigue and mystery around this project. So again, series debut. This one's set in New York City in the 1980s, and it introduces this really cool character, Cassie Stefanidis. She's a forensic artist for the NYPD. So think like the person who's, having perps described to them and she's sort of sketching them out and hoping that it's close to what someone saw. And she's pulled deep into this serial murder case when her best friend is found murdered in a popular birding spot in Queens. It quickly becomes clear to her this is part of a pattern of cases that have been popping up in Queens and the areas around these kind of more nature dense places. So birding plays a huge part in this. Not only was Cassie's best friend an avid amateur ornithologist, but it's clear to her that the killer seems to share this very same passion. So come for this terrifying cat and mouse thriller narrative with life or death stakes, and stay for some really beautiful descriptions of birds. Lots of really nice descriptions of sparrows, actually. So this is dark crime fiction at its very best. This sits nicely on a shelf with books by Thomas Harris, Alex North, Soren Sveistrup, Alex Michaelides. That's Bone Black by Martin Swift from our Soho Crime imprint. Let's go to the next title. I'm keeping it easy for y'all. I'm only doing three things. I'm just gonna keep it real nice and slim here. This one I am really excited to talk about. I have been kind of muzzled on this for a while. I finally get to talk about it publicly. Charlie Bright by Jacqueline Winspear. Many of you may be familiar with Jacqueline's historical fiction, particularly the long-running Maisie Dobbs series. This is the start to an entirely new adventure, and it introduces this complex, iconic new heroine, Charlie Bright. So Charlie is a from the UK. She's a so-called war bride who's been brought to San Francisco by her husband just after World War II, only to have him disappear on her. He just leaves. But Charlie is resourceful and she's intelligent, and she quickly finds a job assisting a private investigator, which gives her access not only to his contacts, but also this kind of hands-on training in the art of sleuthing. It allows her to approach her husband's disappearance as a true missing persons case, which she's always kind of believed that it was. She knows that he was into some shady stuff. Some weird people have been showing up at their apartment after he disappeared. So she decides she's going to look into it. If you're familiar with Jacqueline's kind of big-hearted, deeply moral style of storytelling, mixed with these fascinating kind of historical details, all of that is in play here. It's what she does best. In this case, we're getting a look into this area in the Bay, the Santa Clara Valley, just as it's transitioning into what will become known as Silicon Valley today. So this is a huge event for us. This is really big for Soho. We're pulling out all the stops to make sure that we're catching not only all those Maisie Dobbs fans, creating a whole bunch of new readers for Jackie. This is something I'm going to be talking about a lot. If you go to other buzzes, you're probably going to hear me talking about it. So with that, I'll leave you looking forward to you hearing it pitched again by me in the near future. I'm Rudy from Soho Press. That's all I've got, and I'm going to turn it over to Maddie and our friends at Disney.
Thanks, Rudy. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Maddie Hughes. I'm the School and Library Marketing Manager for Disney Publishing. And I'll start off with a couple of our new nonfiction titles from National Geographic. So first, 50 States, 5,000 Family Adventures. Hit the road with the whole family using this inspiring and practical guide to the best sights, bites, and fun across all 50 states and Canada, highlighting the best parks, zoos, museums, and kid-friendly activities from Alaska to Washington, D.C., and all 10 Canadian provinces. There's something for everyone in this family-friendly sequel to the best-selling 50 States, 5,000 Ideas. And I just have, next slide, a sample spread of the interiors here. Next slide. Catch Me in the Kitchen. In 2019, Jessica Nabongo became the first documented Black woman to visit every country in the world, an adventure she shared on her blog and in her first book with National Geographic, The Catch Me If You Can. Now she's back with a cookbook that features 195 recipes, one from every country she's visited, featuring a dish that is significant to the country and Jessica's experience there. Many of the recipes are paired with Jessica's captivating stories and photography. Next slide. I also have a look at a sample of a recipe in this book. The photos are really gorgeous here too. Next slide. Erica Engelhopter, the author of, and another bonus. Interior, sorry, forgot about that one. Okay, next slide. Erica Engelhopter, the author of Gory Details, returns with a look at another quirky area of science in Superpowered, where she focuses on people who have mental or physical abilities that exist on the edge of what's humanly possible. Things like remembering every face a person sees to staying underwater for more than 12 minutes. Engelhopter dives into this world, sharing what research and science have told us about the minds and bodies of these extraordinary people. So this book is a must read for anyone who is interested in what the human body is capable of. And I will stress that this isn't a self-help book or like a guide to developing extraordinary abilities, really. It's just an interesting and informative journalistic look into the science behind why some people do have these abilities. Next slide. You Getting Older. The latest entry in the mega best-selling You, the Owner's Manual publishing franchise. This relatable guide to happy, healthy aging helps seniors and families navigate the most common medical, financial, and social dilemmas of their golden years. In this book, Dr. Michael Roizen, an acclaimed physician and longevity expert, has teamed up with Ted Gordon, a retired estate attorney, to share their combined expertise on living longer, healthier lives and managing the logistical and practical issues of aging. Examples of topics covered include planning the personal and professional transition to retirement, mastering the dizzying paperwork of healthcare, and understanding how the body ages and how to keep it strong. Next slide. And just two more books from Nat Geo. Birders Atlas of the World is, as the name suggests, the ultimate guide to birds around the world and is both incredibly informative and attractively designed, and also quite large. It's written by Noah Stryker, an American birdwatcher who set a record for observing 6,042 species of birds in 1 year and has written numerous guides and books about birding. And then Best of the World Volume 1 is a collection of 50 plus must-see destinations as declared by the trusted travel experts at National Geographic. Find out why to go, when to go, and what to do in beloved spots and hidden gems around the world. The book also includes a foreword by Antoni Porowski of Queer Eye fame, who hosts the National Geographic Best of the World travel show. That's a companion to this that was recently released on Disney+. Next slide. Now on to a few fiction titles. Snow, This Is Love. Come in from the cold and let your heart melt this holiday season with 5 all-new cozy romance stories from the best-selling authors of Disney's Meant to Be collection: Zoraida Cordova, Jasmine Guillory, Christina Lauren, Julie Murphy, and Jessie Q. Sutanto. From Christmas to New Year's Eve to Lunar New Year, these beloved authors reimagine Disney tales as contemporary romances with a dusting of holiday magic. And so these also, if you're familiar with the Meant to Be collection, these focus on the same characters that these authors have already covered, but in short stories related to the winter holidays. And I am very excited about this because actually holiday short stories is one of my favorite genres. Next slide. Give the People What They Want is not just what we strive to do here at Disney Publishing, but also the name of the newest genre-defying novel from Emily Jane, whose previous works include On Earth as It Is on Television and American Werewolves. Grace and Arthur St. Blaise grew up in the shadow of their father's work. Charles St. Blaise worked tirelessly to develop an AI shopping assistant named Maisie that he hoped would be the first sentient artificial intelligence. When Charles mysteriously disappeared, it seemed like his work would never be complete. Or would it? 15 years later, Grace and Arthur's lives begin to spin out of control when Maisie goes beyond her existence in a big box store's mainframe to fulfill her programming and give the siblings what they want. even if they did not ask her to do that. This is a quirky speculative mystery that's perfect for fans of Kevin Wilson. And if you're not familiar with Emily Jane, she's just really great at capturing in a completely fictional story the way that our current reality really feels a little bit out of whack and more than slightly dystopian. Next slide. And finally, just wanted to share that The Alkahest is coming next March. This is the sequel to The Alchemary, which came out this year. I won't go too much into the plot because I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't read the first one, but hand this series to readers who love dark academia, love triangles, slow burn romances, and a really interesting magic system centered around alchemy. Next slide. Okay, that is all from me. If you need to get in touch, please feel free to reach out via email. And thank you all for being here. I'll pass it over to the next publisher.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Kristen Luby, Director of School and Library Marketing at Abrams, and I'm excited to share some highlights from our fall list. We have selections for every reader and collection, including fiction and nonfiction, cooking and crafting, art and photography, and more. So let's get started. First, just a quick anniversary reminder. You've probably heard me talk about this book before. This September marks the 30th anniversary of the original publication of Angela's Ashes. We're releasing a new collection of essays from Frank McCourt and his brother Malachi, Says I to Myself, which has a starred review from Publishers Weekly, who calls it an Irish wake echoing with laughters and tears. Next, we have another 30th anniversary to celebrate in September for the WNBA. Written by sports journalist Cameron Sproul, the W covers the definitive history of the league since its founding in 1996, spanning nearly 3 decades of iconic athletes, game-changing activism, and the fight for equity both on and off the court. It has already earned a starred review from Booklist, who praised Cameron's blend of deep reporting and the human focus on the experience of players and coaches who built the league. So whether your patrons are longtime basketball fans or part of the massive wave of new WNBA watchers, this is another slam dunk title for your collections. Next, every time I open up Essential Basque, I instantly want to look up flights to Spain. That's where I wish I was right now. Coming this October, Chef Ryan Bartlow, who trained at a 3-star Michelin restaurant in San Sebastian, teams up with New York Times bestselling author Laurie Woolever, who is Anthony Bourdain's longtime co-author. Together, they bring the incredible food culture of the Basque region right into your home. Next slide. This is ultra home cook friendly with just simple ingredients like potatoes, eggs, and seafood paired with Spanish staples like piquillo peppers, tinned fish, and paprika. Bartlow shows how to create dishes that are rustic and refined. Next slide. With stunning full color spreads that will make your mouth water, it's an absolute must add for your cookbook shelves this fall. Next. And if you'd like to finish your meal with something sweet, we have Daily Dessert by James Beard finalist and acclaimed pastry chef Carolyn Schiff. Her core philosophy is you don't need a special occasion to treat yourself. Everyone deserves a little daily sweet treat ritual, and amen to that. Next slide. This book is all about unfussy treats in just the right dose. Organized by mood and moment, you'll find everything from single-serving cookies and weekly snacking cakes to cozy warm puddings and no-bake treats, perfect for fall baking season. My favorite has to be the tiny tiramisu, just the right pick-me-up when you need one. Next slide. And for those moments when you do want to share, there are show-stopping party bakes like one giant sticky cinnamon bun. Whether your patrons are novice bakers or seasoned pros, this is an irresistible, feel-good addition to your cooking collections this fall. Next up, for your craft and hobby shelves, we have Botanical Embroidery by Canadian maker and Instagram sensation Aruna Kunnoraj. If your patrons love modern crafting, plant aesthetics, or visible mending, this step-by-step guide is an absolute gem. Aruna breaks down 40 essential stitches, 20 botanical motifs, and 15 complete projects, including embroidered throw pillows, tote bags, and custom vintage clothing updates. Next slide. Here you can see some of those stitches that she teaches you in the Stitch Dictionary. And next slide, with over 270 full color photographs and illustrations, this is a project book that makers of all skill levels will want to check out this fall. Next, switching gears to history, we have a total stunner for your nonfiction collections, POTUS by award-winning photographer Peter Adams. Timed perfectly for America's 250th anniversary celebration this year, Adams grants readers unprecedented access to all 14 presidential libraries, capturing thousands of rare, iconic artifacts up close. The result is a breathtaking visual journey through a modern American presidency, featuring over 1,200 photographed objects and documents, many of which have never been seen by the public. Next slide. On this spread, you can see personal items from FDR, including his lucky campaign hat, rabbit's foot, and leg braces. Other featured items include Eisenhower's D-Day orders, Obama's BlackBerry, and Nixon's phone used to call the Apollo astronauts on the moon. Next slide. This is a fantastic pick for history buffs, and it also holds wonderful academic research value for students and educators. Paired with rich historical context, this is a high-interest title for your nonfiction displays. Next, we have a vital and deeply necessary addition to your adult nonfiction and graphic novel collections, Framing Emmett Till. Written by Pulitzer Prize nominated author Chris Benson, who co-authored Mamie Till Mobley's landmark memoir, Death of Innocence, and powerfully illustrated by Eric Battle, this graphic novel presents a crucial definitive account of Emmett's life and legacy. Next slide. Through a compelling visual narrative, this graphic novel revisits the tragic 1955 hate crime that catalyzed the civil rights movement, examining how systemic racism and weaponized white victimhood robbed a child of his innocence. Next slide. At a time when American history is increasingly being challenged or censored in classrooms and public institutions, this book serves as an essential, undeniable source of truth. This is a must-have title for your adult nonfiction and graphic novel collections, community reads, and Black History Month displays. Next, for science lovers and curious minds, we have Circuit Breakers by Harvard neuroscientist Dr. Anna Chambers. If your patrons have ever wondered how we actually know what we know about the human brain, this book pulls back the curtain on modern brain research labs with humor, wonder, and real-world clarity. Dr. Chambers explores the cutting-edge tools scientists use to study biology's ultimate black box, from glowing neurons and laser controls to studying brain implants and coaxing cuttlefish or bats to behave in a lab setting. Perfect for fans of David Eagleman or Robert Sapolsky, it demystifies complex science and turns headline-grabbing discoveries into accessible human stories. This is a captivating pick for nonfiction and science collections. Finally, on the next slide, this is just a reminder of our new fiction imprint launching in 2027, aka Story. If you've attended a previous ALMA Buzz, you've heard me talk a little about this imprint. aka Story is focused on immersive, escapist storytelling across all genres. So our first 3 books offer something for every reader. Her Life in Ruins is a friends to lovers rom-com meets art heist, coming in January 2027. Martha Wants a Baby is incisive book club fiction, perfect for fans of Margot's Got Money Troubles. And He Always Comes Back is a thrilling slasher and an homage to horror franchises like Scream. So if you haven't already, please reach out if you'd like an ARC of any of these books. And next slide, that's it from me. If you want, you can find our full fall catalog on abramsbooks.com and on Edelweiss. Please reach out with any questions or to request ARCs of our books. And next up, I think I'm passing to Melissa at Simon & Schuster.
Thanks, Kristen. Hello, everybody. As Kristen said, I'm Melissa Kirchie. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at Simon & Schuster. I'm excited to be here and present some titles that are coming out in late 2026. So let's begin. Next. All the Beastly Things by Ailish Quinn. The year is 2171 and the Earth is not what it once was. After a series of wasting plagues and unmitigated climate disasters, the twin coups of fascism and AI, and a final catastrophic nuclear fallout, small monastic communities have emerged from the carnage. Self-sufficient, female-only religious utopias governed by a strict codex and surrounded by walls to keep the wilds at bay. The natural world reigns supreme here, wild and ungovernable, and blissfully free from structures of oppression such as hierarchy, capitalism, and time. Sounds great to me. It's all that teenage Igraine and her best friend Ophelia have ever known. They've never even seen a human man, for instance. Devout and brilliant, the two have plans to take their places as venerated sisters at a prestigious posting on the moon. Their futures begin to fracture, however, when Ophelia begins receiving visions of a mysterious and alluring archangel, a male archangel. As for Igraine, her mentor, Sister Agatha, takes a romantic interest in her, devotion blurring into jealousy and desire. Confused and in doubt, the girls must venture beyond the convent's walls and into the wilderness to discover the truth and to reckon with their own unraveling faith in a system that demands complete surrender. Next. America in 25 Revolutions, the story of our imperfect nation's 250-year quest to become a more perfect union by Garrett M. Graff. From the historian and Pulitzer Prize finalist, America in 25 Revolutions follows the country's 250-year quest to fulfill the founder's promise of a nation where all are created equal, introducing us to the ordinary champions who move progress forward. The rights, freedoms, and opportunities that so many of us enjoy began as creative acts of imagination by individuals and groups excluded from the country's founding principles. Progress has often been hard and come at great cost. Many times, efforts to enshrine new rights and freedoms failed multiple times, and efforts continued for years. The Stories in America in 25 Revolutions offers a critical lesson for a trying time in the U.S. Progress isn't linear, nor is it constant, but the challenge our country delivers to each generation is to leave the nation better than it once was. Next. Madeline McKnight signs off by Evan Brooke. Madeline McKnight is writing her final annual report. A former Wall Street power player, she uses a pie chart to rank her most hated rivals, a line graph to follow trajectory of her net worth and reputation, and even a formula to predict when the metastasized cancer will kill her. But there's no equation to solve whether Bree Davis, Madeline's ex-best friend's daughter, will agree to take care of her at the end of her life. Bree is a nursing student fresh off of a breakup, ambivalent about her future and drowning in debt. She accepts Madeline's strange proposal, mostly for the obscene payday, only to find herself face to face with a force of nature rather than an ailing patient. Madeline McKnight has never gone away quietly, and soon she ropes Bree into teaming up with her to handle her unusual bucket list. Because growing old, just because you're growing old doesn't mean you can't come of age as well. Next. Peregrine Hill by Nina de Gramont. At the dawn of the 20th century, widow Isabel Bishop decides she'll do whatever she needs to do to ensure that she, her teenage daughter Mariah, and her elderly mother are taken care of. When John Witten, one of New York's wealthiest men, enters their lives, it could be the best thing that ever happened to them, or the worst. Instead of wanting to marry Isabel, however, Witten wants to marry Mariah, and when he discovers the secret that the mother and daughter have tried to keep buried, he uses it to his advantage, threatening to expose them unless Mariah accepts his proposal. For the sake of their survival, Isabel makes a devil's bargain. She urges her daughter into a marriage she knows could destroy her. Mariah quickly realizes her husband's home is a gilded cage, yet even under his watchful eyes, she begins to carve out passions of her own and dares to imagine a life beyond her constricted world. So Nina is Simon & Schuster's featured author guest speaker for our fall seasonal showcase, which is tomorrow. After my presentation, I'll drop an RSVP link in the chat for anybody who wants to attend. Next. The Swiss Agent by Anna Petoniak. Amanda Cole's posting as the CIA station chief in Rome is normally very quiet, but when a chef's body washes ashore on Capri and Amanda learns he worked for a Russian oligarch with deep Kremlin ties, her alarm bells start ringing. Even more suspicious is the fact that the oligarch had hosted a private dinner with NATO's Deputy Secretary General the night that the chef died. To get answers, Amanda calls on her former partner, Kath Frost, a semi-retired CIA legend who is as brilliant as she is unpredictable. As these two dig deeper, they discover a web of corruption that stretches from Moscow to Geneva to Washington. When a suave Swiss banker named Julian Schmidt emerges at the center of the scheme, it becomes clear that Kath shares a history with him, and she may know more than she's letting on. It turns out that Kath's past is full of shadows, and the choices she made decades ago during the Soviets' collapse are now resurfacing with devastating consequences. Amanda must uncover the truth about Kath and whether she can be trusted before it's too late. Next. You, Me, and the Conspiracy by Emma Barry. After a bruising book rejection, tenure-track history professor Jessica Wilson is scrambling for something new to publish to make sure that her spot at the top of the academic food chain is secure. While researching the archive, she discovers a coded message written by one of the founding fathers with the power to change her and the world's understanding of American history forever. But first, she has to prove that it's real. Enter Callaway Morgan, Harvard PhD student turned adjunct professor. Cal was forced to leave graduate school after presenting theories about a shadowy revolutionary organization. Jess has heard his theories before and initially thought his findings were absurd, but now she needs him. With their fates intertwined by their discoveries, the two work together, but danger lurks around every corner. The clandestine fraternity that they've uncovered still exists, and it's ready to kill. With it hot on their heels, the embers of Jess and Cal's attraction grow. But unless they can make their findings public, they'll soon become the conspiracy's latest victims. This is perfect for fans of National Treasure and The Mummy. Next. All right, head to simonandschuster.net/library for more resources curated just for you, including more book recommendations, materials for book clubs and community reads, info about our upcoming events, and more. Next. That is everything from me. Thank you for having me, and I believe I am turning it over to Brad at IPG.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Brad Fish, manager of the Library and Education team here at IPG, Independent Publishers Group. IPG is your home for hundreds of small and medium-sized U.S. and international publishers, including one of the largest title selections of authentic Spanish books. Next. First up is The House on Ember Row from Cinran Books. As journalist Quinn Whitaker retraces the rise and fall of deceased billionaire Lawrence Ellison's empire, he uncovers a network of influence, violence, and moral compromise that refuses to stay buried. From sun-soaked yacht decks to city hall corridors, from whispered deals to the walls that hide them all, The House on Ember Row is a taut, character-driven descent into corruption and illusion, where every secret carries a cost. Next. 20 over 60 from Regal House. This book, 20 over 60, features a collection of 20 stories told by 60-plus-year-old authors. Some example stories. The couple who steals expensive peppermills from fancy New York restaurants, or the couple considering assisted suicide as a solution for the spouse with rapidly declining health issues, or the wife who is trying to manage the needs of both her current husband and her sexy ex-husband, who are both living in the same rehabilitation facility. These stories are smart, unsettling, shocking, or hilarious, highlighting how life after 60 is far more than simple retirement. Next. All God's Creatures from Lightning Books. Mild-mannered editor Ben Fairweather is horrified when his genteel religious magazine is taken over by a fanatical movement that believes animals are closer to God than humans. Amid a nationwide religious revival, Ben is canceled as a pet-phobic bigot. Ben is befriended by journalist Anita Scott. Together, they're pulled into a shadowy world of Russian oligarchs, spies, art forgery, AI, and murder, where their own lives are at stake. In this ingenious caper, Anthony Gardner blends madcap suspense with sharp satire, skewering the bizarre beliefs, chaos-spreading Russians, and the rise of the robots that seem to define our age. Next. The Grapples of Wrath from Atlantic Books. This mystery has them in a chokehold. Claire Hendricks can see ghosts, but that doesn't make solving murders any easier. Pro wrestling manager Ken King is convinced his late father Eddie is haunting his Brighton gym, and Ken hires medium-turned-private investigator Claire to help his beloved dad move on to the next life. But Eddie can't move on because he's adamant he was murdered, and he tasks Claire with bringing his killer to justice. In the world of pro wrestling, can she work out what's real, who's faking, and unmask the killer once and for all? Next. Connecting from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Parents need help, not hype. Pediatrician doctors Moreno and Radesky cut through the noise with practical guidance. They normalize parents' own struggles with media use so families can start having real conversations about tech. Connecting targets the health concerns that keep parents up at night: their child's sleep, mental health, and physical activity. This book translates the latest research into practical tools families can actually use at home. Instead of theories, you get a framework that turns current data on kids and screen time into daily workable habits. Connecting gives parents a calm, empowered approach so they can choose what works best for their own family. Next. When books go bad, from British Library. Drawing on original documents, rare volumes, and vivid historical anecdotes, When Books Go Bad lifts the lid on the darker side of the literary world. Beneath jaunty covers and uplifting memoirs lies a history of personal feuds, sharp insults, physical altercations, publishing blunders, and books that met unfortunate ends. Libraries impose bizarre penalties, writers clash spectacularly, and friendships disintegrate in public view. This one is sure to bring a smile to any book lover. Next. The IPG catalogs and digital review copies can be found on Edelweiss and NetGalley. Next. And as always, feel free to reach out to me or visit ipgbook.com for more information. Thank you for being here. Our next presenter is Celia from Ingram Publisher Services.
Thanks, Brad. Hi, everybody. My name is Celia Madison, and I am the Library Marketing Manager at Ingram Publisher Services. Today, I'll be bringing you some of my favorite fall titles from our many wonderful independent publishers. I wanted to start, next slide, please. I wanted to start just by mentioning some of the incredible Spanish language books that we have from Planeta. I'm sure many of you know Planeta as a wonderful translator of English language bestsellers into Spanish, and you'll see a couple down there in the corner. But they also distribute best-selling Spanish titles from around the world. Andrea Longarella's romantic comedies are a really great example that you see with those pretty flowery covers. They are contemporary closed-door new adult romances that have delighted Spanish readers all around the world and have not been widely available in the US market until now. Next slide. I am putting my thumb on the scale, all my hands on the scale a little bit. This is one of my favorite books of the year, and it's definitely one of the strangest things that I've read in a while. Gak is a new classic of Greek literature that many, including the translator, thought might be untranslatable because of the complexity of the language. Even the title can't really be translated. It's not a Greek word, it's an Arvanitic word, which is an endangered form of Albanian that is spoken in Greece. And it means blood, but it refers to larger ideas of like bloodlines and blood feuds. Gak feels like an epic, and that's why I wanted to talk about it today. It is written in these beautiful vignettes that feel like these just lovely ancient folk tales about soldiers and warfare. Um, but it's in under 200 pages. In my favorite story, a man embarks on what he knows will be a doomed romance with a fellow male soldier, and another, a soldier seeks revenge against his own countrymen for the brutal murder of his sister. Yes, it is thousands of years after the Odyssey. It is a fraction of the length, but I think if you have readers who are looking for something that feels old and classic and beautiful, this is a really great one. Next slide. This is a little bit different for all the lit RPG readers. Dungeons and Deliveries is a wryly funny post-apocalyptic pizza delivery story. Alex is persona non grata amongst not just employers, but also every magical, mystical guild, clan, club in Toronto. When he finally lands a job in a magical pizza shop, he is just relieved to have some spending money so that he can feed his cat, mainly, is his main priority. But with each delivery to a different dungeon boss, he has to face a whole host of rival adventurers and different D&D monsters. This is already an online fan favorite, and so we're so excited to have it in print with this really fun new cover. Next slide. This is like just totally a classic female friendship story. Two women meet, they hate each other at first, then they realize that they actually have a lot more in common than they don't, and then they start a cult together. Aaliyah is an influencer who is married to a wealthy tech exec, while Emma is a fitness instructor who is struggling not just with bills, but with depression and what she should do with her life. When Emma realizes that Aaliyah has what seems to her like a divine connection, Emma decides that the good word must be spread, and so they start this this organization, maybe you call it a cult. This mission quickly becomes a power struggle, feeding on the energy of their devout followers. This is a great, like, dark femme read that has a clever look both at the parasocial dynamics that influencers encourage and the celebrity worship that's perpetrated by fans and regular Instagram users. Next slide. This is for all of the Y2K readers out there. Engineering a Love Story follows a software engineer at the turn of the 21st century. Recently divorced and seemingly at rock bottom, Chelsea finds a life raft as an advisor to hotshot tech execs. It seems like a welcome escape after the kind of, it was toxic. It's toxic now. It was even worse then, but the super boys club of life as a software engineer. And at first, Chelsea is good at it. It feels like she's found her path after a cold and repressive marriage. And then she meets Seth, who is a super charming salesman at a buzzy new startup. Both of them know that their attraction is inappropriate, that could threaten both of their careers. And so they start what is meant to be a no strings attached secret affair. Of course, it gets quickly out of hand. But this is a women in STEM office romance, and the librarian author is going to be touring with it. The novel is based loosely on her previous roles in software engineering and in tech, but she now works as a librarian in Massachusetts. Next slide. So I had to include it. I'm gonna finish out my list with some great horror and spooky season reads. Night of a Thousand Hells is a psychological thriller from an Indonesian literary sensation. The novel follows three sisters and opens with the terrifying, violent choice that one of the sisters has made. It opens with her committing a suicide bombing. When her two surviving sisters find out what she has done, they are, of course, horrified by this inexplicable and frightening choice, but also at where this act of violence fits within their family history and kind of the secrets of their past and their family legacy. The novel moves from Indonesia to the US and looks at dynamics of class, shame, and sisterhood that are both highly culturally specific but also universally relevant. This is a great one, not just for literary horror readers, but also for readers of speculative, gothic, or feminist fiction. The interpersonal complexity makes it a really excellent choice for book clubs, along with those like highly culturally specific elements. Next slide. I feel like maybe some of you have heard me talk about this book before because I just like love this little log line. Yolanda is a poor Mexican woman. She's working for a wealthy family's villa. She realizes that there is really no escape for women like her, women who have been born not just into poverty, but also to a family kind of rife with addiction and abuse. Her only way out is through this wealthy family that has hired her. She decides to see a bruja, which is a witch, like a folk witch, to get help seducing the young master of the house and hopes that he will get her pregnant and then he will be forced to take care of her or even marry her and make her like the lady of the house. But what Yolanda ends up delivering is, as you can tell, an egg. And of course, chaos ensues, as I said. This is an unconventional story about motherhood, obviously, but it's also about consent and exploitation. It explores an unfortunately timeless dynamic of the brutality of poverty and misogyny, and also calls on Mexican folklore and brujeria traditions. And Brenda is based in Mexico City. Next slide. This is for readers who like their spookiness with a little bit of sweetness. Strange Lights is a cryptid sci-fi with a hefty dash of Lilo and Stitched. Paranormal investigator Reggie has decided that she wants to lay low and just focus on raising Eldie, the foundling baby who just so happens to be a chupacabra. But you can try to leave the supernatural life. The supernatural life doesn't always leave you. And they go on kind of a wild adventure together. Next slide. I'll finish up my last one quickly. Nightjar is cosmic horror. It looks at ideas of AI, of climate, what happens when the sister you've been talking to online is not your sister, but is in fact a deep fake. Next slide. And that's all my titles. Thank you so much for listening. Please reach out if you'd like galleys or anything else, and I will pass it off to Grace at HarperCollins.
Thanks so much. And thank you everybody for being here. I'm wrapping it up for us today. So I'm going to jump right into it. Next slide. As always, we're here for you. We have a variety of offerings, including monthly author programming and book buzzes just like this. And you can also email me to get auto approved for eGalleys and ALCs on NetGalley and or Edelweiss. And next, I'm gonna jump right into books because I got ambitious with this one. I'm not gonna go into these, but I wanted to remind you of three upcoming titles. Of course, we have Barbara Kingsolver's newest Partita, our lead read for fall 2026. Female Life on Planet Earth by Lale Khedivi, and A Time of Witches by Madeline Martin. So be sure to keep an eye out for these. Next, our first book is Dated by Leah Abrams. This is a funny, poignant debut novel that is perfect for our time. It follows Sophie, who was raised in the Obama era of liberal idealism, and her journey into New York City politics. So she's really excited to jump into her work, but the mayor has taken a sudden, sharp right wing turn, and she starts to face these moral and ethical crises. So on top of that, she's trying to navigate, the very fun conversations you have with your moderate parents and her conservative grandmother, Irene. And things start to feel especially unbearable when she runs into, quite literally, the most beautiful man she's ever seen while he's on the way to protest her boss. And speaking of Irene, her grandmother, she is determined to find Sophie a suitable match. So she meddles, of course, and she signs Sophie up for a J-date profile and impersonates her. It's very interesting way to be a matchmaker. So Sophie is trying to navigate her job, her family, and a secret budding relationship, but things come to a head at her brother's bar mitzvah, and you'll have to read to find out how it unfolds. Next, we have Orange on a Stoop. So this is book club catnip. It's fresh. It's a fresh historical novel that transports you back in time. It's set in Hurston, Florida in 1956 and follows two girls who become unlikely friends. So Hallie is almost 14, tougher than she appears, but she's down on her luck and low on funds, and she's dreaming of getting her and her brother out of the backwaters. While she isn't the best academically, she knows the land around her and thinks she can find the lost diamond of Hurston among the groves. And that's her plan anyway. One morning, her and her brother meet a girl named Zadie and find an orange sitting on the stoop of the abandoned grove keeper's hut. Zadie is bookish, unlike Hallie, and she happens to be visiting for the summer. She dreams of attending college, though many obstacles bar Black folks from attending colleges, especially in the Jim Crow South. So the trio discover that the diamond connects to an old plantation and the family that had once lived there. So it weaves two timelines, one in 1956 and one in 1913, and it explores family secrets and the courage to break free from the past. Next, we have The Society of Forgotten Wives by Pam Jenoff. We love Pam, and this is her newest. It's a historical fiction novel inspired by true events and her own family history. So in 1919, a woman named Hazel leaves her life of privilege after scandal shatters her world. She finds herself on the Lower East Side in New York working for a small newspaper, and she ends up being pulled into a mystery when a woman named Freya shows up and asks for her help finding her missing husband. So Hazel realizes that many of these women have similar stories, and she agrees to help them as she believes that this could, help launch her into her journalism career. And she joins forces with a group of smart, resourceful women who search for the truth. However, they just keep coming across roadblock after roadblock, and eventually she realizes that this hits far closer to home than she imagined. It's a transportive story of survival, changing one's destiny, and women coming together. Next, we have Sweetwater by Regiana Rashad. So you may know her from her Penn-nominated novel, The Blueprint, and we're really excited for her newest, which is about two women and the ways in which they are connected. So in Texas, in 1983, Lola is in prison for the death of her mother's former lover, and she spent years staying silent, but decides to write a letter to the dead man's daughter, a woman whose shadow Lola has lived in for much of her life. And as she's writing this letter, we learn about two different movements: Camille, her mother, and that journey that she had as a blues singer, and Lola's coming of age and the wake of her mother's legacy. It explores memory, music, and identity in the most gorgeous ways. But what really makes this book special is the novel, the structure of the novel. It's structured like a blues song with call and response, verse and refrain. It's truly musical with this like palpable rhythm and tone. And I think you're going to love it just as much as we do at Harper. Next, we have Tech Wives by Kirsten Chen. So this is from the author of Counterfeit, and it takes place in college. Two friends, or no, after college, but in college, two friends promise to build meaningful lives. Sam and Cicely are from very different backgrounds. Sam is from a rich family, and Cicely's family is more working class, but they were best friends with similar goals. And years later, for the most part, they've accomplished them. Cicely is a wife to a tech titan, and Sam is a doctor who married the founder of a social media empire. So we have a, billionaires here. And things are not as perfect as they seem. When scandal threatens to ruin the lives they've built, everything is put to the test. Their friendship, marriages, values, and families. Set in this really interesting world of Silicon Valley, and it's a timely novel told from these alternating perspectives. And I think there's going to be a lot to discuss here for book clubs. Next, this is my final book today. We're wrapping it up with some nonfiction. This is a really fascinating read. I don't think I've read anything like this before. It's written by Maya Contreras, who is a narrative strategist, political consultant, and a columnist. And she is ripping open this secret playbook that elites have written to divide the public and distort history. It uses a broad scope from ancient philosophy to the psychology of modern propaganda to expose narrative tricks used to manipulate the public. It's not just exposing how the wealthy do this, but also gives you tools to recognize these strategies and reclaim what's yours. So it's really a one of a kind read, and I think for the political moment we're living in, a very important one too. And next slide, that is it from me. You can reach out to me with any questions. Thank you for being here all day with us. We really appreciate it. And I think I'm handing it back to Lainey for some goodbyes, or Emily.
Thanks, everyone. That was really great. We're going to give you 10 minutes back, so that's exciting. A lot of books, a lot to dive into, and look out for an email from the ALMA committee for all of the all the books that we've discussed, all the reading to dive into. There'll be a catalog and a certificate. Thank you.